member of the Episcopal Commission on Liturgy of the Bishops' Conference of the Philippines, which also was one of the first conferences adopting the day of prayer. To you, the floor, Your Excellency.
Good morning. I think it would be good to clarify that the context, as a general introduction perhaps, the context of the Philippines is, as Professor Morandini mentioned, a mondo creato inaccettabile. And the intention mainly of the celebration of creation, the feast of creation, is for evangelization purposes. One will see this in the way the pastoral letters of the Episcopal Conference are phrased. Anyway, I suppose that I can say that I represent the joy of the Catholic Bishops' Conference of the Philippines, as well as its gratitude for being present here to participate once again in these Assisi dialogues about Creation Day. Last March, it was my brother, Bishop Jerry Alpinasa, who represented the CBCP, and now it is my turn to do so. Actually, the first choice among the bishops as CBCP representative was the chair of the conference's Commission on Liturgy, David William Antonio, Bishop of Ilagan, in northeastern Philippines. I'm a member of the same commission, and he requested me to come instead, just as well. From the 20th of October to the 16th of November, within a span of 4 weeks, an absolutely unprecedented series of 6 typhoons, 3 of which were categorized as super, that is more than 240 kilometers per hour, struck the Philippines. 4 of these hit the Philippine North. If Bishop Antonio initially opted to come, he would probably have changed his mind and would have decided to remain. His diocese was among those badly affected. Sadly, our climate disasters get little media attention compared to hurricanes in wealthy regions, perhaps such as Valencia and Florida. But they are still deadly. These recent events can help us understand the context in which the Church in the Philippines is treading the path of ecological conversion. We are perhaps among those who suffer the brunt of the effects of climate change. One can take note that more and more people in the Philippines are becoming climate conscious. And those that already are have become even more zealous in their environmental activism. The experience of the worsening effects of natural calamities have brought about disastrous consequences for our people. Our country is one of the most tragic icons of the destruction inflicted by the climate crisis. As scientists explain, climate change has exacerbated both the amount and intensity of hurricanes in tropical regions, such as ours. Hurricanes, or typhoons as we call them in Asia, have always hammered our islands. Since 1947, when records began to be kept, more than 300 super typhoons have been born in the southwest Pacific Ocean. It seems that these have fully become more frequent and more devastating in the recent past. This year, the Philippines has been hit by 16 typhoons already. 4 were super typhoons. And a new record has been set. It seems that the month of October this year was the first time in which 4 tropical cyclones were existing simultaneously in the Western Pacific. This number of typhoons is particularly personal to me. I come from the central part of the Philippines, in eastern Visayas. It faces the Pacific Ocean, where typhoons originate. I originally belonged to the Archdiocese of Palong in late ground zero for the deadliest of storms to hit the Philippines, Super Typhoon Yolanda, or Haiyan, as known internationally. At that time, I was the rector of the seminary. Our buildings were severely damaged. I remember that coming out, there's a picture of the chapel there, our chapel. Coming out of the shelter after the typhoon, my first thought was, now I am out of a job. Because that is the chapel. That was the least damaged of all the buildings we had. And so I said, maybe I will have no work to do in the next few months. Over 10,000 people were killed in that catastrophe of a typhoon. About 30 million people were displaced from their homes. Given the vast scale of destruction across neighboring dioceses, it was apocalyptic, the signs of the times, in the most terrible ways, and quite brutal for many of us in the global south. About 1 year later, concerning the Secretary General of the Archdiocese, I oversaw the apostolic visit of Pope Francis to Leyte and his meetings with the victims. Can you believe what happened? Another typhoon came on that day, and the Pope had to cut his visit short. I was at the cathedral with religious priests and a lot of people, and the Pope was supposed to be with us for about an hour. He came fast from the Archbishop's residence. I met him, and I could see the worry in him. He said, I'm very sorry. He was disappointed. I'm very sorry. The pilot says you must be leaving soon. In fact, it's a good thing they were able to leave, because after their plane was able to take off, the next plane following, containing government officers, government officials, crashed. Of course, it was a low-flying plane, so there was not much damage to people, but the plane was scrapped. They could no longer recover. The dramatic urgency of the climate crisis is a huge pastoral challenge for us. These human-induced monster typhoons and so many other manifestations of the ecological crisis are a stark reminder that we haven't taken seriously biblical teachings about the preciousness of God's creation. For that reason, our Bishops' Conference first embraced Creation Day back in 2003, over 2 decades ago. That year, the president of the CBCP, Cardinal Quevedo, published a pastoral letter which turned out to be prophetic on Catholic bishops endorsing and promoting Creation Day. It stated, and I quote, today, September 1st, in many parts of the world, Christian churches are celebrating Creation Day. We wish to introduce this period to our Catholic faithful and acknowledge creation, that priceless gift of the Almighty and loving Creator was made us into His own image and likeness. Creation Day, or Feast of Creation, as it is also known, was much a timely gift from the Orthodox Church given the signs of the times. As our pastoral letter stressed, the desecration of God's creation is a matter of life and death for us. Since then, grassroots celebrations of Creation Day and the larger ecumenical season of creation have spread throughout our nation. Yet it was in 2015 when Pope Francis instituted the Day of Prayer universally that momentum began to accelerate even more. We are now seeing an increasing number of parishes, schools, universities, and other communities actively joining the annual celebration. In fact, this year, about 80% of all dioceses of the Philippines participated in one way or another in the annual observance. At least 67 out of 85 dioceses hosted events and initiatives, but it is probably even more. I have no doubts that all this will continue to be a growing phenomenon, and in the future we can expect more initiatives, greater participation, and even deeper dedication towards an ecologically sustainable future. My diocese of Davao, one of which is in the island province of Luzon, in central Philippines, is a positive sign. I think that islands such as ours are exceptionally at risk. These are rather sensitive to changes in the environment. Rising sea levels inundate them in no time. Limited water resources are easily compromised. The small land area can be overwhelmed by landfills, Finding activities in one area immediately affects the entirety of the island. Recognizing our situation, we began to walk the path of ecological conversion. We can begin with rather simple things like doing away with single-use plastics or using solar panels in our parishes, encouraging the planting of endemic plants and trees. On Creation Day this year, we had an event organized by our Diocesan Integral Ecology Commission to help animate the efforts of coordinators at the parish level who are working on enabling this ministry to be affected down to the level of our basic ecclesial communities. The Spirit is moving. The annual rhythm of the day of prayer is helping our clergy and faithful to ponder in more depth the sacredness of creation. Even as an optional celebration, absent from lectionary and formal liturgical life, our people can easily understand a liturgical celebration in which God in His creative will and power is praised, worshipped, and implored, in which gratitude for creation is manifested per ritus et precious, and where the faithful are continually and insistently called to be sincere in their conversion towards and dedication to caring for the entirety of God's creation. As Pope Benedict XVI put it, the renewal of creation and a new understanding of the inseparability of creation and redemption are of supreme importance. I imagine that the liturgical celebration being proposed will find its center in the Eucharistic celebration, and it is important to consider the meaning of the Eucharistia, Thanksgiving, that is being celebrated. The Catechism of the Catholic Church tells us that the Eucharistia is directed towards God by the Church, who expresses her gratitude to God for all His benefits, for all that He has accomplished through creation, redemption, and sanctification. The mystery of creation is fundamental in our worship. We cannot but worship God as His creatures. We cannot but recognize Him as Creator of heaven and earth. And perhaps we can also reflect more on this. Creation and sanctification are likewise inseparable. Bottom line, creation is a great gift. It is an opportunity for renewal in faith and commitment, a sure way towards holiness. We have witnessed wonderful fruits in popular piety in these past 2 decades, and we look forward to even more abundant fruits once it is a liturgical feast, formally enshrined in the liturgical books for use in our parishes and communities. Thank you for your attention.